Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special show today. We are here. We're always happy when it's the first Monday of the month because we come on in the name of EWN, Enlightened World Network, for one of their a meditation a day. So we get an extra lucky time to have a GP do a guided meditation, and we just have a little conversation about the topic before moving into it. This topic, GP, is inspired by two specific things that came up. Somebody was, I was watching YouTube or whatever, and talking about what love is, and love is about giving. And I stopped and thought, is love about giving? And then if it is about giving, what if we don't think we have anything to give or anything that somebody would want us to give? And so GP's titled this beautiful one, Love, Give, Getting, and Being. So GP, I open this up with, is love about giving an aspect?
Yes, that's love in action,
Ooh.
right? There's a dimension to love that is beyond that which expresses it, right? Something in us inspires us and naturally draws us to it. I mean, we're all drawn to love. We aspire to love our lives, to love our work, to love each other. I mean, it is the bonding between mother and child and between man and woman is as natural to us as anything. And if you look, it's not just humans; it's everything.
Yeah.
There was a study done. This is a really fascinating one. They had a bunch of fruit flies. Right? Fruit flies, yeah, because fruit flies only live for 3 days. They reproduce so quickly that you can go through literally hundreds of generations in a short period of time to watch genetic changes. And they took a bunch of the male fruit flies, and they deprived them of sex. They deprived them of any contact with the females, and they had some that got contact with the females, and a bunch that weren't. And then they had two different kinds of food that they could feed on. Right, the same food, but one was laced with alcohol.
Okay.
And the fruit flies that did not get to hang out with the chicks always went for the alcohol.
This is fascinating.
And the ones that were able to didn't. They didn't care. They had no interest in it. There's this compensation we all have to make for love. And if you look at your life, you'll find that every bad habit you have, every addiction you have, every struggle you have is a sense of being cut off from love. And we all experience that. And when somebody feels like they don't really have anything to give, right? It's obvious they're cut off from themselves, because every being is unique in all space and time. And if you're looking at yourself purely in terms of the marketplace and skills you have to sell and your education and credentials and the like, then you may find yourself coming up quite short, right? If I had to sell myself on the programmer market these days, I'd fail terribly because I'm completely out of date. I have no idea what's going on, right? At one time, I was a high value, in that area. So that just comes and goes. But what we really want to point to, the real love, is discovering the quality that is you. That the unique quality that is you, that only you have. And that shows up even when we're not aware of it. Everybody shows up as their individual self. Some of us are ashamed of that self. Some of us are in pain about that. Not the real self. You're ashamed about who you think you are because you're measuring yourself against this and that. So the first thing I have to say to somebody is that really true? Let's be willing to look at that assumption, I don't have anything to give, and say, is it really true, or am I just not seeing it? Very different. Very different. If I'm not seeing it, well, I can learn to see it. If I don't have it, then I don't have it. One is an open way out of that feeling of not having anything to offer, while the other sticks you there. permanently. So there is this feeling that can get built into us because we have enough exposure to it, and people tell us that, we don't need that, we don't need you, right? Um, it can develop over time to this assumption that there's something inherently wrong with me, and that's when you have to come with that loving awareness and allowing and self inquiry that says, is that really true? Right. And at least, as you probably noticed, many people have, when I do EFT and the like, I'm always asking the question, it's, well, what if it isn't? What if it isn't true? What if it's just been an assumption? And notice it's a very open-ended way of looking at it. It's not trying to force them, oh yeah, you are, you start believing it, and put post-its on your mirror and stuff. uh, it's the other way. It's just, well, what if I've just been assuming that that's true and it's not? What if it's not true? What would that feel like? And even as I ask it now, you can feel an opening that takes place, right? Something inside just that doesn't want to believe it's stuck like that.
Right.
In fact, something deep inside that knows it's not, but just doesn't know how to get out. There's this, it's in this little room and doesn't know how to get out of it.
Now, when you're saying that, just one more question before we go into the guided meditation. I think this will be part of it. Is now I'm trying to feel like, when the people say, "I don't know why you love me," I'm grumpy, or or this or that, or I'm never there for you, or all these things, right? When they say something like that, or maybe they've done something that has hurt you unintentionally, and they're like, "Gosh, I don't know why you love me." Now, is that an opening, or is that still in the "I've got nothing"?
Well, welcome to being human. I mean, that's a tough one, right? I mean, because when you hurt somebody, even if it's unintentionally, you've broken a certain bond of trust, right? You're no longer safe, which is the essence of love. Without safety, there is no love. Without love, there is no safety. They go hand in hand. um, and it's not like it has, resurrection's always possible. It can come. But you have to go through the steps then, very genuinely, of reestablishing the trust that feels safe enough to allow them back in. And both sides of the equation have to be willing to do that. um, and but you also have to recognize that sometimes we do some things that can't be undone, and no, they're not going to let us back in. There's nothing you can do about that. And that's a harder one, um, because there's nobody there to tell you it's okay, right? Eventually, after you've earned the trust. And but it can also be incredibly informative if it really hits our hearts and inspires a genuine remorse in us. Something inside wakes up to the consequences of our actions, the natural consequences of our actions, with karma. And we go, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. This, I don't want to be that person. If it's just, I don't want to do that again, we can make rules of ourselves, we can take vows, we can punish ourselves. But if it's, I don't want to be that anymore, can become a deep inquiry into what is it that moved us, that caused us to act. What was I feeling like I was missing? What was behind the betrayal? And this is why this kind of spiritual work is, it, it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's a deep way of living your life that opens up to vista after vista after vista, and dredges up trauma after trauma after trauma, right? But the good news is that while the vistas never end, the traumas do.
Oh, there's a quote, you guys. Well, everybody, big hello to everybody coming on with us here. We've got Fernando and Mary and Dorte. I think I'm hopefully saying that right.
Dorje, that is correct. Very
Yes.
good.
And Ava, hello everyone, and whom we can't see. What we do here is a different format. It's a shorter time, but we get to enjoy full screen GP, our master spiritual teacher here, guiding us through whether we'll see what shows up. He never scripts this, so it's a surprise topic for him, maybe half an hour prior to, if that. and then I go off screen and come back for a little chat after. But we're going to be talking about love, giving, getting, and being. So I'll let you walk us.
All right, let's let Lisa go for a minute, and I'll mute you so you don't have to worry about that. And we don't have to worry about brinks. So, everybody, close your eyes. This is one of my most favorite things to do because meditation has so many powerful positive effects, reducing stress and lowering cortisol levels and all sorts of different things. But it also provides a space for the deepest kind of therapy, the deepest kind of inner openings. So I want you to take a deep breath or two, slowly. And as you breathe out, just let your whole body let go, sink into the breath as it leaves your body. And do that a couple more times. And just notice how the body responds to that. It's a beautiful giving in, a letting go, a surrendering. And that's kind of the essence of love. This letting go into it. You give yourself to it, which is the ultimate thing to give. The skills we have, the education, the knowledge, the information that we can share with others is very valuable. But when you share yourself just as you are, it's no strings attached. A very deep, heartfelt desire to simply show up, be present. This is the heart of love. It's no accident that the real heart of the religious sentiment is a surrender, a surrender to something greater than our finite self. Eventually realize that what we're surrendering to isn't a being out there, but the being that's in here, our own inherent being. We're surrendering to the love that is our very being. Love and being are one. What would being be without love? Just unimaginably flat, empty. Eternity would be torment. Now, as we're in this quiet space, I want you to get in touch with just how deeply we all desire love. To love and to be loved. Let yourself really feel that. Now, that may be difficult to do simply because some parts of us have been so wounded, so hurt, that even the desire for love in any form feels out of reach. And so even touching that is like a tender wound on our body that doesn't want to be touched. But gently touch it anyway. Everything we have ever done in our lives has been to have the experience of love. We strive to become more loving, and we yearn to be loved. We'll twist ourselves into knots to try to appeal to the environment in such a way that it will get at least the treatment of love, if not the actual love itself. But what we want, we all want, whether we believe we can have it or not, is love. And I don't even have to tell you what that is, do I? I don't have to give you a definition. I don't have to give you a checklist. You don't have to confer with somebody to say, is this really love? As if anybody could feel what you're feeling at any moment. Yet you know it. You also know what it isn't. Now, if we can just for a moment recognize our deep need to be genuinely loved, and this is not a luxury. This is an absolute need of the human being. It is not something that we can get away from. It's not something that we can become very spiritual and transcend. It's an absolute necessity. Now, recognizing that, we can just let ourselves feel that natural desire that permeates human life. Just feel it. And feel any resistance there is to it, any fear that might come up, any shame or feeling I don't deserve it, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have anything to give. Who would want me? And just really be present with all of those feelings. Imagine those feelings are a little child that's saying those things to you. How would you feel about him or her? You would hold them, stroke their hair, remind them that it's okay, that you're there. And if you can do that just a little, what more could you possibly have to give? Notice that you have all the capacity in the world to give the one thing everybody needs more than anything else. And I'm just inviting you for a few moments here to give that to yourself. Again, if that little child was crying and saying things like that to you, would you ask what their qualifications were? Would you ask what they had to give? Would you try to check to see if they were worthy, if they'd done bad things in the past, if they'd hurt something? Would none of that even enter your mind? You'd be so absorbed in just comforting the little broken heart. And notice how you can do that. It comes very naturally. As long as you don't think you're doing it for yourself, but you just did. So I invite you to take this up as a practice that you can sit with. And when there's some pain or discouragement or a sense of I don't have anything to give, to embody that in an image of a young child that feels cut off and isolated and alone. And just notice how instantly that sense of compassion, care rises up. You don't even have to know that that child is you. That message is inherent in the love itself. So take another deep breath or two. Again, as you exhale, just let it all go. And don't even try to hold on to anything we just did. Let it hold on to you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That's always so beautiful. What a piece on love. That just went everywhere with that one. You were sneaky in some of those. I like that. Like, you don't even know it has to be you, or just know that you're not giving for yourself, but you are. And a question came up. Oh, I've got to see if I can go back in my brain and remember. It's competition. Sometimes we feel we can feel like there's this competition, like, well, that person gives love this way. They're always there, but this person may not be able to be always there, but they do something else. And I was just going to ask, how can we check in with ourselves so that we're not doing that? We're not comparing how we're loving.
Oh, as Shakespeare said, comparisons are odious. It is it is a horrible habit and a bit of an addiction, because underneath is a deep pain of an unresolved pain that I'm not enough.
Yeah.
Because if you were enough, the comparison would always be, wow, look, that's wonderful. It would always be wow, that's wonderful. And it would even be contribute, wow, I want to add that to the mix, right? You know, there's sometimes that I'll see people doing a really good job of teaching, like, oh, I'm going to steal that. That's a fantastic idea. Or some story I hadn't heard before that I get another story to tell, right? I love to tell stories. And, I recently, maybe in the last 6 months, learned about this process of dyads, a different kind of process for inner work. I go, now that's really interesting. And, I want to learn more about it and see if I can integrate it into what I do. Now, that's a positive comparing, right?
Yeah.
It is a cooperative, mutual exchange. As Ram Dass said, we're walking each other home. And which is different than the one that's based on this sense of being painfully wounded. And because what it's really saying is they're better than I am. Unless it's somebody who's really bad off, it's, well, at least there's somebody worse off than me. Right? And it's just, it is, it's an addiction in the sense that it's a completely repetitive pattern that we're not really aware of. And it provides a moment of relief, right? That something that soothes the wound as it, rises up, is, or the pain body, right? When it rises up, it gets fed for a minute and can go back down, but it has long-term negative consequences. We're stuck in this loop, and so we have to use that kind of loving awareness to do exactly what we did in the meditation, which is to let these things come up, right? And then to regard them as the wounded child, as the those parts of us that are desperate for love. And this is where meditation, which is older than the hills, right? I mean, it's been around for forever. Takes that beautiful step beyond mirror therapy and psychology, which is why it's amazing how many psychologists and therapists are practicing meditation and mindfulness and Buddhism and the like, because mirror analysis just doesn't go far enough. Something inside that awareness has to become a loving awareness. Because the first recognition that, man, we're screwed, we're stuck, isn't usually loving.
Yeah.
There's a lot of judgment and criticism there. So we have to get to this next place of just allowing it to be there. And in the allowing itself, something opens up, that the act of allowing, even if it's hard and painful and I don't want to be here, the very act itself is an act of love and self-acceptance.
Mm.
And as a result, it can deepen, right? And get more and more expansive to the point where you can really welcome anything. And that's where the genuine self-inquiry can take place. You can't have self-inquiry without that.
Mm.
Simply
Beautiful.
can't. It's just too frightening.
Yes, it is frightening. And this is why we are constantly reminding people and inviting them that this is a practice, that this is not a one and done. It's certainly, yeah, not even close to one and done. One in a
Don't
million.
don't I wish?
Yes. And so, on that note, I will just take a moment just to share, invite, and remind everyone that going through this, you can see this. I kind of was grabbing a system there. Like, we have awareness, then we have allowing, and then we have loving awareness. And so that takes those steps to get there. So if you'd like to be a part of having some assistance to be supported through it, to be guided through it, we do have something called the looking class every Wednesday for you to be able to go through that system. So just put down in the comments below, looking class, or I want in, or we'll put I can't remember the link because we changed them. So like a few, there you go. Actually, GP's on it.
Because
Homeschool.
everything is homeschool
Yeah.
now. Yes.
homeschool.ca/LC for looking class, and just go check that out and see if that feels right for you. And Mary, thank you so much. Fernando, yes, compassion. Yes, it certainly is. That was one of a very compassionate meditation inquiry. That was a little bit of everything thrown in there. I like that one. Big soup of that. But yes, medicine for my soul. Oh, everybody's. And Paula from England. Yes, I didn't want to forget to say hello. And Carlucci. Yay. Okay.
There. Just to answer Mary's question, yes,
Yes.
it is medicinal. It is medicine for the soul. It's the ultimate medicine. Buddha was referred to as the great physician. So, and there's a reason why they call it plant medicine, right? And the thing about medicine is you take it until you're well. There's a point at which you don't need it anymore. It is mediation. I like that. Yeah, that's the medication. The word I use and I love is reconciliation. You're reconciling these parts that you've just been at war with, and that's where the pain is, right? I want to get rid of this because we think it's bad, and it's not bad. It's you. It's just been characterized as bad, as sinful, as horrible, and institutionalized. We're reminded all the time in the media of what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to act like, what we're supposed to think. right? And designing food to make us addicted to it on purpose, right? We've created a this culture is exploitive and not healing. There's nothing medicinal about it at all. Um, and so we can see that it is pervasive, and we're all sensitive to these messages. But it is a reconciliation with your own soul, with
Yes.
the fragmented you, and it definitely is a medicine. There's even a small book of conversations with Nisargadatta called The Ultimate Medicine.
Ooh, I want to write that
Yeah,
in there.
yeah,
Okay. If anybody's read that, let us know. Or if you want to look it up. Yes, the ultimate medicine. That sounds
yeah,
beautiful. Oh, well, thank you, everybody. Yes, Mary. You know what? I feel like we need this one every day. This is something that, as you said, it's a practice. And so a practice is something that we do every day, and it comes in different shapes and sizes for us, but we're just happy to be part of this for EWN. Thank you. And thank you everybody for showing up. We'll hope you'll continue. And we have our show tomorrow, our live class tomorrow, School Live. So if you want to tune back here and to thank you, Facebook user. Come over tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon on Tuesday to watch us do School Live. We'll see you then. Thank you so much, Chief.